And the Browns with a bye. They head into the bye week 2-4. Lost at home against Seattle last time out. Now they have an entire week off, and then they get ready for the New England Patriots, who play Monday night. Let's welcome back in Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com. And Doug, 2-4 is concerning. How concerned are you, and how much of a head scratcher is the way, particularly this offense is played?
I am pretty low on the list of concerned people, I think, because I feel like there are some people who are freaking out and want to make drastic moves. There are some people who are saying, like, this is the same old Browns. And I certainly thought they'd be better than this. I mean, I picked them to go 12-4, and I don't think they're going to go 10-0 the rest of the way and make my prediction correct. But, they had a terrible first game against the Titans and got eliminated from that game by themselves, by their penalty. And then they went to the West Coast and played a terrible game on a Monday night on a long road trip against a really well-coached San Francisco team. But the other two losses at home against the Rams and the Seahawks, they were right there. And they made mistakes when they couldn't make mistakes, a mistake here, a mistake there. They were right in those games. So, they probably should be 3-3. They should have won one of those two. The schedule gets a lot easier. Freddie Kitchens, I think, has made mistakes, but I don't think he's been as bad as some people think he has been. Baker Mayfield has made mistakes. I don't think he's been as bad as some people think he has been. I think they should and might improve the offensive line, but I think they're kind of close. And so, like, I'm sure there are people screaming at the screen right now, disagreeing with me. But this team has talent. We know that, and sometimes you lose. I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes you lose, and I feel like 9-7 or 8-8 still could very well win this division. And I think this team absolutely could still go 9-7 or 8-8, maybe even 10-6. So I don't know. Kind of chill about
it. You mentioned the line, and Baker Mayfield hasn't played as well as a lot of people might have thought that he would. Everybody was concerned about how you're going to replace the right guard. The tackles have kind of been a question mark, too. How much do you think the line has played into what Baker Mayfield's problems have been?
I think it's a lot. And again, you can look at statistics that'll show you, well, they're blocking it. They're actually, a top 15 offensive line, or you can go through PFF stats, and all those things are important. I get that. I just think Baker does at times have a tendency to leave clean pockets and to get a little antsy in the pocket. And I think that tendency is exacerbated when he doesn't necessarily believe in his line. And so I think Greg Robinson at left tackle and Chris Hubbard at right tackle, again, you can look at them statistically and by the numbers, I think they'll do their job, 3 or 4 times in a row. But it feels like they have killed drives with inopportune penalties. They have killed drives allowing a sack that can't be allowed. And I think if you fix part of that, it very well may happen that Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens, A, get better at their jobs, and B, look better at their jobs, because I think maybe both of them don't have full trust in that line right now. And if you could give the quarterback and the coach something more to believe in, I think everything might look a lot smoother.
Yeah, I would agree. The thing that in just watching it, there's no area in that pocket that he feels he can consistently escape from or go to, which makes it look like he's just running around aimlessly trying to buy time. And they talk about his mechanics, and I think all of those are a function of there isn't an area that he can get to where he can feel like he can get and buy time and have time to throw the football. It's always coming from a different area.
I don't think he's dropping back and feeling comfortable. He's not confident when he takes that snap and sits in that pocket. And there's a lot of other things there. I mean, there's been some timing issues with the receivers. Freddie at times has not put him in the best position. I actually thought that he looked pretty good against Seattle. I thought he threw with more anticipation. I thought a couple of throws they missed was because maybe receivers have not been anticipating his anticipation, but I thought Baker threw on time a little more often. But again, you can go back through there and find the Greg Robinson hold right before the final pick to Dontrell Hilliard. There was a play where Baker escaped and hit Odell Beckham on the sideline to set up a 3rd and 1 that was negated by a Chris Hubbard hold. and it all of a sudden was 2nd and 21. Again, I get it. Offensive linemen have penalties sometimes, but there are just times where if you get the wrong penalty at the wrong time, a drive can be over. And that has happened to them sometimes. They barely punted against Seattle. They barely punted. They moved the ball up and down the field and had some bad tip balls that turned into interceptions. But I feel like this offense can move the ball. And so if you get a little more belief in the line, maybe by making a change there, and you have guys stop dropping balls, it can look a lot better.
You keep hearing the name Trent Williams, left tackle, sitting out. Redskins have repeatedly said they're not going to trade him. It seems to be a personal thing between Williams and Washington's medical staff. What would you be willing to give the Washington Redskins to get a left tackle who is a multi-time All-Pro?
It is a hard balance. And I asked John Dorsey about that balance this week. There are salary cap considerations looking ahead when you've guys like Joe Schobert and J.C. Treader and Rashard Higgins and Demarius Randall who need to get paid, and now you're going to throw Trent Williams into that mix. You already traded your first-round pick this year to get Odell Beckham. So do you want to trade another first-round pick down the line to get another older guy? On the other hand, we've talked a million times, when you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, this is your time to win. I think it's possible that Trent Williams would fix a lot of this. I know a lot of people say he's not that wouldn't fix it. Baker is not reading the field. I think Trent Williams might make Baker a lot more comfortable. And if you put Trent Williams at left tackle, maybe you move Greg Robinson to right tackle, maybe you move Chris Hubbard to right guard. I don't know. I think you could start fixing multiple positions on that offensive line. So the weird part of this is, like, David Njoku's been hurt. That's a talented guy. I don't think they've missed David Njoku. If you want to include him in a trade, I think I'd be okay with that. Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward have been hurt. I think they have missed them at times at the end of games. But you've also shown you have some depth at corner with Terrence Mitchell and TJ Carey and those guys. If you want to peel somebody out of that group to trade him for Trent Williams, I think I might be okay with that. Because do you want to trade either Higgins or Callaway? Higgins didn't get on the field last week. So if you trade your fourth best receiver, I'd trade Callaway before I'd trade Higgins. But if you're trading your fourth best receiver and he's a piece in a deal to fix a hole, there's a hole on this offensive line. You have depth elsewhere. I think maybe there's some young pieces you can include. There was a time when I would not have traded for Trent Williams. But I think it's possible one move can fix about 5 things with this offense. So I might really look at it.
And again, the thing that we keep hearing nationally is it's really gotten personal between the Redskins and Williams, and they've held fast that they're not going to trade him. The other thing is as that trade deadline closes in closer and closer, they're in full rebuild mode because they fired their coach. They haven't played Dwayne Haskins yet, being the Redskins. As that gets closer, the more you tempt them with some young talent, the more they may be likely to listen. Would you trade the Browns' first-round pick for him? If the Redskins said, we got to have that first-round pick.
That's why I'm not the GM, man. I just take hot shots from my basement. I don't know. I would think about it. Now, here's the thing, and I've criticized John Dorsey the last couple of days for some things. The Austin Corbett pick was a huge miss. What's happening with the offensive line? It does seem like I think John Dorsey made Dave Gettleman make a trade that he kind of didn't want to make, actually, and he sort of like got that Odell Beckham trade done. And maybe in hindsight, Dave Gettleman would say, like, what did I do? I think it's possible John Dorsey is the kind of guy who could go into that Washington situation and they don't actually want to trade Trent Williams. They want to hold strong. And Dorsey just has that kind of personality who's like, come on, let's do this. Come on. And actually, makes it work out. When you look at what they gave up for Odell Beckham, you start, Peppers in a first-round pick. Are you going to give up more than that for Trent Williams? Like, that would be hard to do, in my opinion. But maybe Dorsey, he's got that way about him. Maybe he can get that price down a little bit. I could go either way. I on some level, would trust John Dorsey to realize what needs to be done in the moment. I wouldn't be thrilled about trading a first-round pick, but if he could explain why it had to happen, I think I might buy it.
Last thing I'll ask you, as you look forward, what do you think needs to get fixed for the Browns to get where everybody, you and I, both thought they would be at the end of the year? Is there one or two things you think need to be solid as they move forward and get out of this bye week and start facing the Patriots and then a much easier back half of the schedule?
I think a lot of, well, one thing is the defense gave up a couple crucial drives against Seattle that killed them. I mean, again, for all the things that went crazy near the end zone when the Browns were on offense and they threw the challenge flag and all that, and people are giving Freddie a hard time about that, they did end up taking the lead then. And then the defense let the Seahawks march right down the field and score the go-ahead touchdown. So at some point, this defense, with the talent it has to get critical stops. And I feel like too often that defense hasn't. That's easy to say, hard to do. You need to lean on them when you can. Offensively, I think the red zone play calling and getting the ball to the right people in the red zone has not been great. Odell has not been involved enough in the red zone. It's like, oh, Antonio Callaway dropped the ball at the goal line. Well, why were you throwing it to him? Throw it to someone better. They throw it to Demetrius Harris a lot in the end zone. Throw it to somebody else. I get it. Defenses are taking guys away. I think the red zone play calling could improve, but I think the communication with the receivers, I feel like Baker and the receivers are a little bit off. I think sometimes Baker's putting the ball where he thinks the receiver's going to be, and it makes Baker look like he's inaccurate. But I think Baker might be throwing it exactly where he wants to throw it, but there's some timing off. There's some communication off of, hey, I'm trying to put this on your back shoulder or put it away from the defense. You're continuing through the route. I think some of that precision with the receivers, I don't think Baker Mayfield just forgot how to throw. I think he and his guys are not there yet, and maybe they can get there in the next couple of weeks.